Goodwill here in Seattle is going to close 2 stores, and they are claiming it's because of rising crime and costs. Now, keep in mind, Goodwill is a company that gets stuff donated to it for free, turns around and sells it, and it's recently had an operating loss of $4.5 million. What's the deal? Let's take a look. So recently, we've had a ton of stores in downtown Seattle, and close to the Blade, closed down. Just, you've got a bunch of crazy people running around. You've got whacked out absolute nut jobs doing their thing on drugs, right? And so retail in these areas of Seattle have said, yeah, I don't think so. So when you've got a store that isn't making money and your store employees are at risk, as well as your customers are at risk from whack jobs who do whack job things, we'll read about that in a little bit here. It's easy to make it a determination when you've lost a whole bunch of money. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and close down this store and that store. It's one of those things where it's like, boom, this is not a difficult decision to make. What has been interesting in Seattle is how we've got this kind of dual narrative of, well, things are so expensive in Seattle. Rent is so expensive. Commercial rent is so expensive in Seattle that businesses are having to shut down. It's a combination, but I think the overriding factor is most of these companies still have a presence in Seattle, just not in these areas where you've got people that are whacked out on drugs or just whacked out in general. And they, have wildly unpredictable behavior on top of break-in after break-in after break-in. You've got that going on. So Seattle doesn't really want to admit that there's a problem, but there's a major problem. Theft safety concerns lead the 2 Goodwill to close 2 Seattle locations. The company says impacted employees will be offered positions. How many times are we going to hear that? How often are we going to hear that? A lot. 2 Goodwill locations in Seattle will close in late September due to escalating theft safety concerns. So it's not just theft. It's the safety associated with that, because you can't really go after anybody. And the criminals just walk in, take whatever they want, and leave. And if somebody gives them a hard time, yeah, they'll go crazy, because guess what? It's going to take so long to get a cop into a store that the thieves know that they're going to get away with it. And even if they do get caught, we're not really prosecuting misdemeanors like that. So unless they've got an outstanding warrant or whatever, yeah, it's the world is their oyster. These criminals, the world is their oyster. The South Lake Union location on Westlake Avenue North and the University District Store on University Way Northeast are the 2 impacted, or the 2 stores impacted. The locations, open since 2008, will be open for donations and shopping until September 22nd. So where are these stores? These are in the South Lake Union Market, which isn't particularly known for shoplifting because there's just not a ton of shopping in the South Lake Union Market. Now, the University District Store on University Way Northeast, that is the same location that we had the Seattle Target in the U District. And I did a walkthrough of that location. And you've got people there that you've got a lot of homeless folks there, and you got a lot of people on drugs. So that one I get. The South Lake Union one, it's a smaller store. And you've got a whole bunch of shoplifting going on. And this kind of notion that if you go into a store, you can steal from it and there'll be no repercussions. This is the ultimate impact to these retailers, is that they say, yeah, we're done. We're done in this part of Seattle. We're out of here. We're gone. The decision to close these stores was not made lightly. This is the corporate nonsense that I rail on. But they've got to come out and say something, right? Oh, you got to make a speech. You got to tell them something happened. So here it is. Said 𝗨𝗡𝗠𝗜𝗨𝗠 Senior, Vice President, Customer Service, Retail and Revenue Growth. That's quite a title at Evergreen Goodwill. And both locations have experienced a troubling rise in property damage, break-ins, and safety concerns for our employees. So you've got people just, damaging the store to get in there and steal from it. You've got a bunch of that going on as well. Break-ins. Safety concerns for our employees, because people know that they can come there, steal stuff, and they're going to be able to sell it for drug money, right? Or for whatever it is that they're funding. So maybe it's their lifestyle. And half the time I think these career shoplifters, that's just their living. This is how they're making their living. And they're basically just flaunting the laws. And it's like, catch me if you can, right? Catch me if you can. I don't really care what you say, because the proof is in the pudding that if I rip this off today, somebody arrests me, not much is going to happen. And we know that to be true. It's just, this is what's going on. These challenges, coupled with rising rent and operational costs, have made it unsustainable to continue operating in these areas. All impacted employees, yada, yada. There are 23 other Goodwill retail store locations in Western Washington, according to the website, including 4 others in Seattle. For those of you, I don't know if Goodwill is a nationwide thing. I think it is. But if you don't have Goodwill in your area and you haven't heard of it, it's a secondhand store. So Goodwill is not the first major store to close. Goodwill is not the first major store chain to close Seattle locations, citing theft or safety concerns. Target, the one we just talked about. Target announced several stores in Seattle were closing in 2023 due to theft issues and nearby crime. But a CNBC investigation appeared to show that crime data did not support that assertion. Well, what you had more 911 calls to other stores in the area, other Target stores in the area, notably the Northgate store in North Seattle. But those are bigger stores. They have the opportunity to make more money. So if you're going to have to make a decision based on, well, we got a whole bunch of people breaking into this store and accosting management, accosting whomever, that's still happening at the Northgate store. But if you've got a store that's bleeding out money, you're just going to go ahead and ixnay that one. So there's crime going on all over. And then if you're running a store, throughout that kind of deal, and you see that, hey, things are getting worse as far as your inventory being stolen, or the types of encounters that are happening between, your management, your store employees, your customers, because you got to reduce that liability of having somebody just take a pop at one of your customers. Because hey, go shopping at Goodwill. Don't, because you might get hit, you might get assaulted. They want to kind of keep some of that stuff down to a minimum. Nike and Amazon also shuttered retail locations in the downtown Seattle in 2023. You've had a whole plethora of stores that, due to Seattle shenanigans, have closed down. I mean, store after store after store. You got grocery stores. You got Nike. I mean, the list at Amazon. Amazon does not want to have an office building presence with employees that's just to the north, and I think almost due northwest of the Blade. They don't want to have office space there because it's so dangerous. And so that is what Goodwill is basically stating here as well, is that, hey, if we can't make money and we got to take these risks, this isn't the store we're going to remain open. We're going to have remain open. So they closed 2 down. A July 2023 report from the Seattle City Auditor showed that in 2022, Seattle police got 13,103 calls from the top 100 retail locations in the city. Responding to those calls cost police officers more than 18,000 hours of time, which the report said is equivalent to the annual work of 9 full-time patrol officers. So you got 9 people on, throughout whatever shift, full tilt, just going and, what shoplifting event can I help assist you with solving today? That type of deal. Absolutely insane, the amount of resources that we are shunting towards, situations that don't necessarily need to be there, but they are, because our leadership has said, oh, you know what? It's really racist to arrest people and incarcerate them. We can't have that. Therefore, we're just going to, do this, justice reform and just let everybody go. What used to be a felony, now a misdemeanor. And then interesting, businesses aren't able to stay in business. It's so weird how that works out, right? And the whole thing is, it's so easy to sit there and look at and go, okay, yeah, this isn't good. Nobody's going to want to shop here. And yet the rest of the city, kind of just ignores it. It's like, oh yeah. And I've showed you on the map many times how close Pike Place Market is, which is one of the huge tourist attractions in Seattle, is to the Blade. It's a couple of block walk. You can physically see it. And the Blade being Pike and Pine on 3rd Avenue. You can literally see, you go to the north end of the McDonald's right here that we are looking at. This McDonald's right here. Let me get my little pointer thing out. I know you can see it, but there we go. This McDonald's right here, looking due west this way, looks right at the Pike Place Market. It's two block shot there. And so all these businesses in this area have closed down because of safety concerns. And also because you can't make money when people don't want to come into your store. And in the case of these Goodwills, if they're a smaller store, then you're going to have a tough time and management's just going to say, boop, gone. You're done. So what I wanted to read here is, this is a Jason Rantz comment. Why did the developer pause a massive construction in downtown Seattle? So that is a building. The CEO of Plus Investment USA waited over 8 years for a master build use permit to build a 46-story residential tower near the Pike Place Market, but he's indefinitely put this on pause because he's basically saying, unfortunately, I don't see us going vertical, building new construction, big downtown new construction buildings anytime soon with the continued public safety concerns in the neighborhood. We've got concerns. You got a bunch of whacked out drug addicts doing crazy stuff and a whole bunch of criminal activity associated along with that. Open air drug markets are still visible day and night on 2nd and 3rd Avenue. I know the city needs more resources, but I don't see how much downtown commercial development happening until there's a stronger crackdown on these illegal activities. And you know what? Seattle's tried to do that multiple times. Let's get an emphasis patrol in there for, a few months. And then emphasis patrol goes away and it just goes back to being its normal deal. Here's guys walking to work in the morning. I get up early in the morning and I wake up to somebody having a manic episode right outside my door, screaming at nothing. We talk a lot about screaming at the clouds, screaming at the trees, things you don't really need to scream at, but the mentally ill or whacked out on drugs do. An hour later, it happened again. This is Pioneer Square. This is just a slight example what Seattle's got going, and Portland and San Fran. This person's fully naked, running around the street, screaming at 6 a.m, he said. He said his walk to a light rail station was a tour of human misery. Every person I see is either folded in half, looking for drugs, having a mental breakdown, or asking for money to go, who knows, to get drugs, right? He recalled, and I finally get to the 3rd and Cherry light rail station and there's human waste in front of it. Needles, people sleeping directly in front of the escalator. As you're watching all these commuters that are coming to the Central Business District Core, which is dying actively, you see office occupancies way down. Actually, they're way up. You see, occupancies, not vacancies, right? He called the area a war zone, and he's speaking up because he loves the city and he doesn't want to see it continue to deteriorate. Okay, so that is, that's what you've got going on. And the reason you've got that going on is because you've had politicians that you've elected for years and years and years to allow these conditions to happen. These conditions are not in all cities where you've got strong leadership that says, no, you can't do that nonsense. We're not doing that. We're not doing that here. We'll arrest your ass and throw you in jail. We may put you in prison. Drugs are bad. Pretty basic. I've been texting back and forth with Jeremy Harris of Como. There is a lawsuit. Do you remember back in Chop Chaz, the protesters had a dance party on Interstate 5 and a guy went up an off ramp and then turned around and got on an Interstate 5, and he ran over a couple of these protesters that were having a dance party. And now the family of the one gal that died, he got knocked up in the air, came down and died, is suing the city of Seattle because they're stating that, conditions were such that they've got a wrongful death lawsuit going on. This is a protester who's on the freeway. And so the district attorney came out today and just makes the obvious statement, which is, I can't remember how it was worded, but something like this: for Pete's sakes, pedestrians can't be on the freeway, period. And businesses, by that same notion, can't operate in a world of just absolute mayhem and craziness, so much of it to do with the mentally ill and those on drugs and those buying and selling goods to make those lifestyles happen. But folks in Seattle just kind of want to ignore it and go, you know what? We had 18 million visitors come to the city this last year. All is good, except for the retail in these areas that are highly impacted, because they can't make a go of it. And they're like, yep, gotta go. And so now you've got this retail area in downtown Seattle that, Starbucks just closed one of its branches. Starbucks, like right across the street from Pike Place Market. All of this has to do with decisions that have been made where you've allowed the constituents of Seattle and anybody who wants to come to Seattle, just come to Seattle and do their thing, do their drugs, do their criminal activity, break-ins, you name it, and what does the city say to them? The city says, oh yeah, come to Seattle. We'll give you whatever you need to do your homeless thing. Some of that has been cracked down on because we've got some more moderate players in the Seattle political structure now. But it's going to take years to turn this bad boy around because you've got all these people with mental issues and drug addiction issues, and they're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Are you going to put them in jail? No, you're probably not, unless they really commit a crime. And should somebody who's mentally ill be in jail? Probably the worst place for them, right? Should they be in treatment? Absolutely. Are we at a point in Seattle or in society where we're just putting people away involuntarily into treatment? No, we're not. No, because that goes against everything about harm reduction, which is all harm, no reduction. You've got these theories of, well, you just got to let people, bottom out on their own. What about in their bottoming out process, they're killing other people? We've got that going on in Seattle. We've got lawsuits about this going on. Just this whole notion of just let people do whatever the F they want, like parading on Interstate 5 for a protest. And because, traffic wasn't stopped enough, there's a wrongful death lawsuit. There's a civil lawsuit. And just this whole notion of, Washington State Patrol allowed a couple of these protests to go on. Therefore, they gave a green light to these protesters to walk on Interstate 5. And then a couple of them, one gets killed and another gets, heavily injured. It's like, that's what happens when people walk on the freeway. Businesses close when there's safety issues and they can't make enough money. Pretty basic stuff, isn't it? It's basic stuff. But you would think with the amount of ignoring these stories in Seattle that we just haven't learned our lesson. And we haven't. We just really haven't. Like, it's okay. It's for the most part, it's good. Yeah, it's all good. It's not all good. Because now Goodwill, where a lot of people over the years have shopped for decent secondhand clothing, are where they're going to go now. A lot of folks in comments that I've read regarding this topic have said that Goodwill's pricing has really spiked up. Like, it used to be affordable and they really enjoyed shopping there. My girlfriend loves to go shopping at secondhand stores. She loves getting a good deal, something she finds with tags still on it. She's totally pumped about that. So I end up going to a lot of these as well. I know the Goodwill in my neighborhood pretty well. Just, I've gone there. And sometimes you find cool stuff. It's like, hey, look at this. I got a pack of seeds for 25 cents. This is so awesome. Just ridiculous stuff you don't need, but because it's so cheap. But what I keep hearing from folks is that Goodwill and a lot of these places that have had really affordable secondhand, whatever it is, goods, clothing, whatever, because rents and operating expenses have risen so hard that they've had to increase their prices. And people are like, I can find cheaper, newer stuff on Walmart, on Amazon, online. And people are going that direction as well. So I often wonder, is there a certain percent of business that is going online and getting new stuff instead of going down that traditional route of maybe getting some secondhand stuff and kind of supporting local community? I don't know. But those 2 stores in Seattle closed. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Catch up with you in the next one. Love to have you subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll see you then. Bye for now.